What is a property manager? What do they do for you, and how much do they charge, and is it important for you to have one? I'm Jim Fong. I'm an investor and realtor here in Las Vegas, and I help investors like you identify investment opportunities and give you advice on how to build a real estate portfolio. Okay, so what is a property manager and what does a property manager do? Okay, so a property manager is somebody that manages your property, right? So you're basically agreeing to let this person represent you for the property, right? So first thing they do, if they're managing your property and you're trying to rent it out, well, they're going to go look at the property, assess the property, make sure that it's in safe and good condition to rent out, first of all right? Once that's done, they're gonna do the marketing for you. So that's gonna include, you know, pictures, posting it online, on places where people are looking for homes or properties to rent, right? They're gonna be in charge of all of that. So when I'm looking for a property manager, I want somebody that is a licensed property manager that does have access to the multiple listing service, right? So you need to be a realtor for that, all right? But having the MLS exposes your house to all licensed realtors out there, all right? So that is huge in the marketing of your rental property. And then once it's on the market, you should be receiving people that are interested in renting your property, all right? So what they'll do is they'll apply. So what is their application process that they follow, all right? What is their criteria for approving tenants, right? You want to discuss this with your property manager, right? Because depending on your property might depend on what criteria you need to put up, right? Your property is in a very, very high-end, exclusive area. You might have a little more strict requirements for them, because when you have a large house that's expensive, damage to repair is very expensive as well too. So you want to consider those things. If let's say it's just a kind of a starter apartment condo type place, well, you're not going to expect someone to make $100,000 a year, right? So it adjusts to your property, but it's important for your property manager to screen your tenants for you in a way that you're comfortable with as well too. And you can, I like to work with a property manager where I tell them, hey, if it's a no-brainer to approve, okay, I trust you, all right? If it's a no-brainer to decline, just nothing but evictions and collections on credit, I don't think I want my property manager to call me and ask me if I should consider them or not too, right? So think about the tenant screening process, all right? So once you have a tenant that is approved to rent your property, now you gotta think about the financial part of this, all right? What's the security deposit going to be? Who's gonna hold the security deposit, all right? I know that in Nevada state law, a security deposit must be held in a trust account, all right? You don't get it as the owner. It's held in an account there just as a security deposit for any damages that they leave, all right? So you wanna make sure the accounting is there with your property manager. What about the first month's rent? What about the last month's rent or any other deposits? Are there cleaning deposits? Are there pet deposits? Are there, key and garage remote deposits? Who's gonna handle the mailbox keys and things like that? These are all the little details that you need to discuss with your property manager as well too. Here are some other expenses you have to consider that your property manager will do for you too. So I have a property manager that actually pays my property taxes for me. When they collect my rent, I have them pay for my property taxes, my property insurance, and also if there's like an HOA fee or anything like that, I have them take that out of my proceeds, pay that, and then just, the remaining amount, then they direct deposit it to me, all right? That's really helpful for me in accounting, and because I don't want to, have to make all these multiple payments every month. That's something that I look for in a property manager, just making it convenient because it's an investment. It shouldn't be another job for me to do, right? That's their job to do, all right? Okay, so now you're to the point where you have a tenant already and they've moved in already, so this is what I expect from my property manager too, all right? So before the move-in, I want them to go in and inspect the property and take pictures of everything, all right? I want to know how and what the property looked like when I turned it over to this tenant, all right? That's a must that I need from my property manager, all right? So once they move in, the tenant also has another period where they just get acquainted with the property, and they'll probably ask for a couple repairs here and there or point out any existing damage so they're not responsible for it, all right? I expect my property manager to fully document that, all right? I don't want any disputes down the road, okay? So, for example, let's move this down the road and the tenant moves out already, and there's certain damage and things like that. Of course, as a landlord, we need to accept normal wear and tear, all right? But what about things outside of that, all right? That's what I'm depending on my property manager to do for me, is to help determine what is normal wear and tear. I mean, if the carpet's a little worn and the paint's a little not as fresh as it was, that's understandable. But if someone, breaks your tile floors or, damages your faucets in the kitchen or appliances go out, that's going to be more responsible to the tenant to take care of those repairs, all right? What my property manager does is all of our lease agreements have a clause in there that says, minor repairs, up to $200 will be responsible by the tenant, all right? So, little minor things, maybe a clog in the drain, or a outlet, something, a GFCI needs to be replaced, or something minor like that. I could say, well, hey, I turned the property over to you in fine condition, but I can't help what you're flushing down the toilet, right? So if something happens and a plumber needs to go out and it's a minor thing, I expect a tenant to pay for and be responsible for these things. If, like, say, a hot water heater goes out and it, leaks and it drains out and everything like that, well, that is not a tenant's responsibility. That's your responsibility as a landlord to provide, this on the property for them, right? So that, in other words, would be a cost for you as a landlord, right? So you want a property manager that understands that, and then when these repairs happen, you want to know that the property manager has a whole list of vendors that they work with, or they might even have somebody, within their company that does these repairs even. So figure those things out, right? If they have people in-house, it'll probably be lower in cost to you, all right? If they have to go to an outside vendor for each of these things, you want to know at least they're getting multiple bids and are verifying and confirming that, the job's done right, they're licensed and bonded and all these things. Something else that a property manager will do for you is just ongoing maintenance, all right? Maybe every 6 months they're going there to check that this, irrigation's working right. They're there to make sure that the air filters are changed. That you want proper maintenance to your property because it's just going to prolong the use of it, and deferred maintenance are those things that if you ignore them over a long amount of time, they become a large problem and a large expense for you too. So you want to work out something with your property manager. What's the maintenance plan for your property for, routine maintenance, all right? And then there's even more frequent maintenance that you might consider too. What if you invest in a property with a pool, all right? I have a house that I rent out that has a pool. It also has a nice yard as well too. So I have a pool maintenance person and a landscaper for that property. So what I've decided with my property manager is to go ahead and pay for the landscaper and the pool person myself, and then adjust the rent up to cover those costs for me, right? The reason why I decided to do that with my property manager is I don't want the tenant to be responsible for it, because if they, don't pay the pool guy and they don't come maintain the pool and something happens, well, there's those repairs that a small problem became big, right? So I want to be in control of that. That ensures that the pool and the landscaping is taken care of the way I want it to be done, and I'm being compensated for it by increasing the rent to offset that too. All right, so that's something that you want to work out with your property manager. And let's just go on to rent increases. All right, so depending on the lease terms that you agreed to with your property manager, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever, you want to know that they're adjusting your rents to the current market condition, all right? And what that means is, well, let's say you rent it out, you're renting out a house, a year goes by, market's changed, all right, you want the property manager to do some research for you. You want to find out what homes that are similar to yours is renting for currently, what the condition is, and and you do have to consider what your current rent is as well too, and the current condition of your property, all right? So what they'll do every year that goes on and it's time to renew leases on properties, my property manager will send to me basically data on a similar property that have rented out in the area that are similar to my property, what they're going for, how my property compares to their property, and then we consider what is a fair rent to charge at that time. You know, there's been times where my property manager says, hey, Jim, this tenant has been a great tenant, on time, every time, no problems, and just takes really great care of the house. This is a great tenant, all right? Well, in these cases, this is where I might work a good compromise where, let's say I'm charging, $1,700 and current rent is $2,000, but this has been a great tenant. Maybe I meet in the middle with them. Maybe I don't increase it all the way to $2,000. Maybe I only go up to $1,850, all right, to, help my tenant stay in the property, and then it helps me avoid having any vacancy on this property and loss of any income there, because when you turn over a property, you lose money that way too, right? So you want a property manager that is going to keep up with the market, give you the data, and then your job as the actual landlord is to just verify those numbers, all right? Because, there are gonna be property managers out there that, maybe are charging low rent just to get things rented easily, or maybe they're trying to charge too much and now your property's sitting there vacant for too long, all right? So these are things that I look for in a property manager. So what does a property manager cost? Okay, so property managers generally charge anywhere from around 5 to 10%. It's usually calculated based on the rent that they collect for you, all right? So I'll use the example of $2,000 a month. Let's say you have a property and you can charge $2,000 a month on it. If the property manager charges, say, 10%, then you're paying this property manager $200 a month for their services, all right? So that $200 a month, you should look at it as the very same way as a expense in doing business this way, all right? That's the same thing as like insurance or taxes or HOA fees. You need to build it into your costs because that will be deducted from your income every month off the gross, is that property management fee. So what other fees are also included that you should ask your property manager? You should ask them about releasing fees, all right? What if you have a property and the lease is up and the tenant moves out? What does it cost for the property manager to do it all over again for you? Screen, find a new tenant, do the whole thing. Or what if your tenant wants to just stay and remain at the property? Is there a leasing fee? How much is that? That's something I recommend for you to ask your property manager that you're interviewing. And finally, very, very important is evictions, all right? That's the thing that we all want to avoid, but from time to time, you are going to have a tenant that maybe there's a dispute, they break the lease, don't pay rent or something. An eviction may have to happen, all right? Is the property manager that you work with going to do this for you? And is it included in the property management fees, or is there an additional fee? And is that a flat fee, or is that every time they have to go to court for you or something like that? That's something that you should discuss with your property manager as well, are all those fees. To check out more videos about investing in real estate, please check out my channel. Thank you for watching today.